mood disorders. Probably if you know someone with a psychological disorder, more often than not, it's somebody with a mood disorder. Or an anxiety disorder, but mood disorders are definitely right up there, and probably more people are aware of them than a lot of the other diagnoses. Disturbance in your emotions that is serious and persistent, that causes you discomfort, that impairs functioning in daily activities. Because your moods are very important to your day. They think of it as poles, and this will come into play more in a second when we talk about bipolar, but if you think of poles, and they have a nice little figure on page 244 in your chapter, figure 7.1, mania is at the top, and depression is at the bottom, and then right in the middle is, where you'd want to be. You wouldn't want to be too manic or too depressed. You would want to be normal. People who have difficulty stabilizing their moods fall in somewhere within this category and have and meet criteria for a mood disorder. A common one, major depressive disorder, having had at least one or more major depressive episodes, the presence of symptoms for at least 2 weeks, and on page 246, they have those common features of depression. So changes in mood, tearfulness, crying, reduced interest in things, reduced level of social participation, moving about or talking more slowly than usual. You just have low energy. You have difficulty concentrating. It's hard for you to think ahead because you're kind of overwhelmed and worn down by what's happening around you right now. An overall negative outlook. 10% attempt suicide, 10% of people diagnosed with major depressive disorder, and 13 to 14 million are affected by major depression each year. And these percentages may be a little different from what your book says. Things change pretty rapidly, and it depends on what study you're looking at, so somewhere around that idea. That's a lot of people when you think about it. Just a note, seasonal affective disorder is not its own disorder. It just describes the mood disorder, that it might happen more likely, at different times or places. Mood comes in cyclical patterns, often within colder months and northern latitudes. That might be a description attached to the back of a diagnosis to say you're more likely to be depressed during this time period. Dysthymic disorder, which is now called persistent depressive disorder. I don't tend to use that new one because I think dysthymia fit it well. But anyway, it's the same idea. It's like a low-grade depression. You're not so depressed that you're just unable to do anything, but you're certainly not normal/balanced, and you're certainly not you're not happy and pepped up about life. You are kind of down in the dumps on a regular basis. It is less severe, but still that becomes taxing on the person, and it has been at least present for 2 years or more. So it's an ongoing thing. Bipolar disorder. Try not to use the phrase manic depression or someone has manic depression. That's an old term that has been outdated for a good while. I still see it on a regular basis in people's writings and move on from it. It's bipolar disorder because of the theoretical bouncing between those two poles we were just talking about, that figure on page 244. Mood swings from depressive to manic, and manic just means you have just flights of ideas, your thoughts are racing, you can get so much done, you're just full of energy. It's not necessarily exciting and fun, but it's just energy where you feel like you just can't sleep, you can't rest, and you're just all wound up. So somewhere between those is where it kind of bounces around, and some people have longer cycles than others, or longer mood swings than others. Some people do it more rapidly. So depressive episodes followed by manic episodes, and then repeat. 2 million per year have bipolar disorder. Cyclothymic is like a lower grade type of bipolar disorder. So it's less severe but still frequent mood swings. For 2 or more years, you may often, 2 or more years that you have the criteria, you may often think of these people as moody and inconsistent. And I would wager that even though this is a fancy word and we don't come across it as much, this is a diagnosis that more people actually run across on a very regular basis. I think there's a lot more people that could meet criteria for cyclothymic. Just that lower grade mood swing that's seems frustrating, I think, sometimes. I think I have a few people in my life that definitely meet those criteria. A few comments about causes, and these are, some of them are the same as the causes in your book. This is kind of a shortened version of it, just because there's not time to cover everything. But it's likely that people get mood disorders for multiple reasons. But one reason could be genetic predisposition. The studies have found that it runs in families. Twin studies, if an identical twin has a mood disorder, the other one has a 70% equal risk for it. So is a 70% as likely to have one too. Adoption studies found that 70% of identical twins reared together or apart still had it. So even if they were in a different household, it's showing that environment didn't have as much to do with it as genetics did. Some sort of brain chemistry imbalance to be addressed by antidepressant medication to increase neurotransmitters that decrease depressed mood. I mean, there's a lot more to that, but you get the idea. Stress can certainly be a trigger. Some event or trauma that happened that can bring on its own level of depression. A negative worldview / thinking style, just always explaining your situation in a pessimistic style, like the, I don't want to dumb it down, but the idea of like an Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh. Well, they were coming to meet me. I don't think they were really coming to meet me. They were just walking by, and they happened to walk near my house, so they came by and said hello, but it wasn't because they liked me. That sort of explaining things away, like, well, the only reason that happened was because you were already there, and blah, blah, blah. It's adopting a learned helplessness viewpoint and attitude toward the world, that nothing really happened good for you. It was just a matter of circumstance, and it wasn't because anybody liked you or cared about you. And then anything that goes wrong is because you did a poor job. So always attributing things like that to those kinds of negative possibilities keeps you wrapped up in negative possibilities. I already said that. The word rumination, so ruminating on the negative, thinking about it over and over and over. It comes from the idea of sheep and different animals that chew their cud. They're ruminants. It has something to do with their toes, and it's the kind of the category of animals they are, and they tend to chew their cud, and so that's chewing it over and over. So that word was sort of taken into this context, ruminating over and over on things and not letting them go, and keeping yourself in that negative spiral. Not an attractive picture. Interpersonal factors could be causes. Inadequate social skills equals no one wants to be around you, equals depressive emotions, equals lack of opportunity to acquire and practice social skills, which equals inadequate social skills, which equals no one wants to be around you, which equals depressive emotions, and blah, 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 blah. It's a cycle that you get trapped in. You don't have good social skills, and that makes you seem odd to people. That makes you sad when they don't want you around. The less chance you have to practice it, the more you stay in those depressive emotions, because you don't have a chance to get better and get out of those. And I think this one gets overlooked a lot, and I think this is an important one that people actually go through, some people go through daily. Its connection to suicide. There are 30,000 suicides annually. Attempts largely outnumber completes, obviously. There are plenty of use statistics. We won't cover them in this class. We've already got more than we have time for. But it is worth noting that the vast majority of those who commit suicide had a psychological disorder. And over half of those with psychological disorders had a mood disorder diagnosis. and it's research has shown that 15 to 20% of people who are diagnosed with bipolar disorder will commit suicide, and 10% of people with depression will commit suicide.